Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video I'm going to give some feedback on Robin's speaking test. Before I do that, if you'd like to have your own free practice IELTS speaking test with feedback, or if you'd like me to check your IELTS writing tasks, then join one of my groups. I'm on Facebook and Telegram. Links to both groups are given in the description below. But let's get into our feedback. Good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you
Good
please
afternoon.
tell me your full name?
My full name is Hasibul Ahsan Robin. You can call me Robin.
I think the way that you say your name is a little bit fast there. Always remember, IELTS is an international exam, and sometimes our names link closely to our language, and so that sounds familiar. In general, say your name clearly. There's no rush, there's no hurry. Just say it slowly, clearly, and understandably. Okay, thank you, Robin. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
I am a student. Recently, I have been completed my diploma in engineering.
I have been completed. I have completed. This is a grammar tense called present perfect. I have completed, not I have been completed. And its pronunciation of engineering, just a bit strange on the j, so it sounds a bit more like a z. Engineering, engineering should be a j sound. Just notice it again here.
My diploma in engineering in
Engineering, we get.
computer science.
And why did you choose computer science?
Uh, because I love it. First of all, that thing, and I am always curious about computer.
I'm always curious about computers. Again, the verb tense seems wrong here. I've always been curious about, and we should have computers, the plural form, not the singular form.
When I was child,
Candidate sent when I was child. Okay, great that he uses was, but no article there. It should be when I was a child.
last time my father gave me a computer, and that day I realized I am need to
That day I realize I am need to. Not sure what tense there. It doesn't sound like past.
get lots of knowledge about that, so that's why I choose it.
And again, we get that lots of knowledge with the j sounds a little bit more like a z. And what are you planning to do when you finish studying?
I am a
So you can notice there that I noticed this with some candidates that they're always in a hurry to get their answers out, and because they're in a hurry, sometimes they have this stuff. You don't need to be in a hurry. You have enough time. You can sit back. You can be intentional about what you want to say. Think about what you want to say and say it. Not always easy, but okay.
I'm a very much keen on web development, which is popular all over the world. And when I am completing my degree, that time I will join a software company.
We get a lot of extra words that we don't need here. When I am completing my degree, at that time I will join. We could just say, when I complete my degree, I will join. That would be a much more natural way. When I finish my degree, I'm planning to join a company or something like this. All right, let's talk about your home now. How long have you lived in your current home?
I live in there.
And notice I living there. So again, there's no knowledge of tenses here. I live there, I am living there, but really here we want I've been living here or I've lived here. Again, we should have some perfect tense. So, the candidate, I had a chat to the candidate after the test about verb tenses, and the candidate has, no cognitive knowledge of present simple and present continuous and past simple, even those most basic tenses, let alone we can forget about things like perfect tenses. If we can't get basic simple, basic continuous correct, we should probably forget about perfect and perfect continuous.
Since my childhood, and this home is for me paradise, because
Nice vocab. This home for me is paradise.
I love this place. When I feel low, I spend lots of time there, and
I spend lots of time there. Candidate's vocab is good, and the candidate is on topic and easy to understand. The pronunciation is clear. So, the first thing I notice about the candidate is the grammatical mistakes. That there's a grammar mistake in almost every clause. There's very little control of even basic grammar, some basic grammar. But in terms of answering the questions with a satisfying answer, we get that. In terms of clear pronunciation, we get that. In terms of vocab, we get that. Grammar seems to be the weakness.
I feel this is the one of the best place for me.
I feel this is one of the best places instead of one of the best places. So we all know that candidates from Bangladesh, the biggest problems with grammar, the same things come up over and over again. The use and non-use of the verb to be, verb tenses. Candidates from Bangladesh tend just not to use verb tenses. And also this singular noun versus plural noun, where candidates just often mix them up. They use singular where they should use plural, they use plural where they should use singular. It's unfortunate, but it happens.
And I'm a little bit introvert person. I don't go out.
I'm a little bit introvert person. We don't need the word person here. I'm an introvert is fine as a noun, or I'm quite introverted as an adjective.
Outside, and I spend all my day there. So yeah.
And what's your favorite room in your home?
In my apartment, my favorite room is my personal room because I decorate myself. Like
Again, because I decorate it myself, because I decorated it myself, maybe. But again, the answers, the language is readily available for the candidate, right? The candidate doesn't need to sit and pause and find language. He's quite fluent. He can produce language spontaneously on the spot. The language is, a direct answer, a meaningful answer, and developed in response to the question with relevant vocabulary. Great. Just that grammar.
I recently I print my wall, and
Recently, I paint my wall. Again, just present simple, but it should be past simple or present perfect.
also I try to organize everything.
Okay, but I try to organize everything. Gets that infinitive there. I try to organize. So while we do have huge problems with verb tenses, with articles, and with singular versus plural nouns, some things like infinitives and gerunds are used with some control.
Sometimes you need to be yourself, and
Again, you need to be yourself, and you need to be reflexive pronoun yourself. This is good grammar.
I am the one of the person who love
I am one of the people
it. And
who, let's just listen to this again.
be yourself, and I am the one of the person who love it.
He says, I am one of the person who love it. It should be, I'm one of the people who loves it. So yeah, again, just very, very basic. And English is one of those languages, I guess most languages are like that, where it's just, it's possible. There are so many holes and so many traps, not traps, but so many opportunities to make mistakes, with verbs, with articles, with prepositions, with tenses. Not easy to control and be accurate with grammar, and this candidate is really struggling with grammar, but he is speaking with confidence. I'll stop repeating myself because I think I've made that point a few times.
And I decorate properly.
And how often do you invite guests to your home?
Uh, I am invite.
Yeah, that sounds a bit like never with a but, right? Never. Many candidates from Bangladesh have difficulties with this v sound, that it often comes out as but. So I never, but it should be never with a v.
Anyone because I am little bit introvert person.
Yeah, I'm quite an introverted person, or I'm quite introverted.
Because I don't like it.
I'm quite an introverted person because I don't like it. Maybe the candidate's misusing because here. Maybe, that's why I don't like it, or therefore I don't like it, or so I don't like it. So the candidate seems to be mixing up those connectors to show reason, and the connectors reason like because of, due to, owing to, since, as, and result like so, therefore, that's why, and so on.
Don't feel more comfortable with stranger people and or relative. So that's why I don't
Okay, but gets that's why correct there.
invite someone. But when I feel more friendly, or I feel
So pronunciation and fluency a little bit broken now. When I feel just reaching a little bit,
very exciting, that time I
when I feel excited, not exciting.
I invite someone. It's a very, very rarely.
And very rarely. Look, really good vocab again. Do you have any particular house rules?
Uh, I think I have a particular rules. If I say that I need to go bed very early.
Yeah, again, candidates using a lot of sounds and words, but I don't know. It just I feel like there's a bit of disfluency there.
I need to go bed.
Let's listen again.
Uh, I think I have a particular
We get quite a few I think I have so quite a few in there.
rules. If I say that I need to go bed very early at night, because my mother always told me if you go bed very early, then it would be helpful for you. And sometimes it's really helpful for me, because I
Of helpful is the right word here.
wake up early in the morning and do some exercise, which is very beneficial for my health.
Okay, but we're kind of a little bit off topic. I mean, partially on topic, I would say. Do you have any house rules? And then the candidate starts talking about the benefits of getting home early because that means you wake up early and that means you have a chance to do exercise. For me, that's just drifting a little bit away from the central theme, which is, house rules. Let's move on now and talk about games. Do you ever play board games?
Uh, I'm an esports player, so I play sort of several kind of games, but unfortunately, I never play board game. I played such as eFootball and PUBG, which
PUBG. Gotta love PUBG.
is very popular in my country, and I love to play this because I
Love to play a game, we get good infinitive.
feel when I play games, that time I develop my
The candidate often wants to use that time, like with these time clauses, right? Or to link these time clauses. Now, very often in English, we have like an if or a when or a before or an after or an as soon as. Then we have a clause, then we have a comma, then we have a clause, right? Before I go to sleep, I brush my teeth. Or when I wake up in the morning, I have breakfast. But the candidate always wants to, instead of just linking those clauses naturally, he always, or not, quite a few times, wants to add that time. So the candidate wants to say, before I go to bed, at that time, I brush my teeth. Or when I wake up in the morning, at that time, I do something. You don't need that. Take it away and your language will sound a bit smoother.
community.
Let's just notice that again.
I love to play this because I feel when I play games, that time I develop my
When I play games, that time I enhance, I develop my. So yeah, just take out that time because you're overusing it.
communication skills.
And do you prefer playing games alone or with other people?
I love playing with my team because
I hate playing PUBG with my team because my team always let me down.
it's really good for me, because as I mentioned, I am a sports player, and that's why I need to participate several competition. So
I need to participate in. But it's it's strange, because I'm an esports player, I need to participate in competitions. Okay.
don't like to hang out or share my team with others, because sometimes you share your skills,
But this answer I just find a little bit difficult to follow.
and it's very
I wouldn't say it's off topic, it's just not easy to follow.
bad for you. So that's why I don't prefer to play with others,
I prefer not to is better than I don't prefer to, but okay.
because it's not helpful for me.
Mhm. And what kind of games did you play when you were at school?
Uh, I think I play several kind of games when I study at school.
When I study instead of when I studied. And the candidate says is school. We notice this. This is a mistake that's very common for Spanish speakers of English, but it's also quite common for candidates from Bangladesh. Words that begin with sa. Oh, also people from Iran have this problem a lot. When a word begins with s, like school, Many candidates want to add a syllable before it and say iskul. When I studied at iskul, iskul. Candidates from Iran do this all the time. From Spain, they do it all the time, and many from Bangladesh do it.
First and top most game is I played is PUBG, which is very
Game we get that PUBG. It really sounds like a Z here. So there certainly seems to be a phonetic limitation here because Z is its own word it's its own letter in English. Z with a Z. It's not PUBG, it's PUBG with a G.
popular in that time because I completed my secondary school certificate in 2018, which is almost 7 or 6 years, if I'm not wrong.
And candidates talking about when he finished school. I don't think that's really relevant to the heart of the question, is it? The heart of the question is, talk about some of the games that you played when you were at school. When you were at school is just the time frame, so the focus really should be more on the games.
In that day, I first time participate in my life is a competition where I get fifth place, unfortunately. So yeah, this game is very popular in that time.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this next... Okay, so thoughts on part one. Great t-shirt, Iron Maiden, awesome, well done, amazing t-shirt. Some positives. The candidate is a positive speaker. The candidate stays on topic, even though one or two questions, I kind of lose the trail of thought. I lose the answer a little bit. In general, the candidate is on topic. The candidate shows a willingness to speak at length. In terms of grammar, we do have a variety of sentence types, but the big problem is the accuracy of the grammar. There's just very, very limited control. The candidate can, use word order correctly. The candidate can use some infinitives correctly. Great. However, with singular plural nouns, articles, verb tenses, use or non-use of verb to be, some of those, really systematic things in English, the candidate just doesn't have control over that. The vocab is good. The candidate does have enough vocab. I do notice that he tends to repeat some bits of vocab, like I'm an introverted person and wants to talk about PUBG a lot and repeat some of those like similar ideas across different questions. So that might indicate, it might show a lack of flexibility with vocab, but in general, I think the vocab is okay. The pronunciation is clear, but we do have that systematic error with the j versus the z sound. The candidate at times the candidate does show some intonation, but I don't think he really sustains intonation. And at times it feels like the candidate's rushing, not too much in part one, but sometimes I just feel like the candidate would benefit from slowing down a little bit. That would give the candidate the opportunity to put pauses in the right place and so on. It seems to me that the candidate is afraid of silence. Now, I've spoken to some candidates from Bangladesh before who tell me that they are worried that if they don't speak quickly, then they won't get a good mark for fluency because they think that fluency means speaking quickly. It doesn't. Pace of the speech is part of it, but it is not the case that if you just speak as quickly as possible, then you'll get the best mark because and when you speak quickly, of course, that can negatively affect your pronunciation. It can negatively affect your fluency because you end up, people who speak quickly repeat themselves a bit more. They have more and things like this in there. So yeah, I would recommend slowing down a little bit. But let's get to part two, where the candidate needs to describe a successful person who he knows. Let's see how he does. Have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk, and I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
I meet several people in
I meet several people, so I'm going to stop correcting those very basic mistakes. Meet means usually. I think the candidate means in the past and in my life. So I have met. Again, this is present perfect. It's beyond the candidate's grammar, but the candidate should have a knowledge of present simple, present continuous, and past simple. Those tenses are absolutely essential before we can even think about throwing in perfect.
my life, and I think one of the most successful people I ever met. He's my cousin, Atim, who is living Austria since
Okay, so a decent introduction.
2020. 22 to 2023. It's uh, almost 3 years, and he's
That type of pausing is fine. The candidate's trying to remember or trying to work out how long, how many years that is. That pausing is not bad for fluency.
he's a very successful in my personal perspective, because
He's a very successful. So we don't use a successful by itself. A successful person, fine. He's very successful, fine. He's a successful, not fine.
I believe successful is a defined.
You can't say successful is defined, you can say success is defined. So again, parts of speech, basic word order, nouns versus adjectives versus verbs, the candidate doesn't seem to be aware.
What type of thing you do in your life? Like he do several kind of thing. He
He do or he does.
participate, debate.
He participate or he participates, and the candidate doesn't use any preposition here. He participates, debates. It should be, of course, he participates in debates.
He own here, and he also
A bit of disfluency.
doing his job very well. And if I come to the financial thing, then he earn lots of money
Should be he earns, not he earns.
also. It's kind of silly thing, but I personally believe the nowadays people are defined.
But good functional language, right? I personally believe that nowadays all of this stuff, like I mentioned before, the candidate readily produces meaningful language, just there's no accuracy there.
Someone by their how much money he or she earn. He's as I mentioned, he's my cousin, so I always admire him because he suggests me lots of things, like how can I improve myself and how can I develop myself, and I learned lots of things. Like a few years ago, when I had
So notice the shift of focus now, right? We've shifted the focus from the successful person and why they are successful, and now we've shifted it to
some problem on my maths.
a couple of years ago I had some problems with my maths. And so now we've shifted the focus, and candidates tend to do this at, B1, B2 level. What we hope for a C1 candidate is that they can stay on topic for 2 minutes. Not just that they can speak for 2 minutes, but they can organize a 2-minute speech on a particular topic without needing to freestyle, without needing to shift the focus so dramatically.
And I don't know how to solve it, because math is sophisticated and very tough for me. And I don't
Yeah, so does it feel like we're still talking about the successful person? Does it feel like we're still talking about this candidate's cousin, I think? Because it seems to be that now we're talking about, why this candidate has difficulty with maths.
really know how I solve it, and I often ask him so many questions. And he
And our intonation has kind of disappeared here too. And this often happens when candidates go off script and when they just start adding sentences at the end. So we see this a lot with candidates in part two, especially at the B1, B2 level, where they speak and then at the end they want to add another sentence. And then they want to add another sentence, and then they want to add another sentence, and they lose intonation, and it really feels like it's not part of the story.
give me so many tips and tricks, and I now
The tips and tricks, right, in learning. Everybody wants tips and tricks. Nobody wants a 55-minute feedback video.
nowadays I feel I more comfortable with the math, and it's not piece of cake for me, but I feel
Okay, an attempt at some idiomatic language, and it feels a little bit forced, but it's appropriate.
it's very easy for me nowadays. And I think
Okay, and just a little bit chaotic in that mumbling.
in the future, if I had a chance, then I would go to Austria and meet him, because he is
Okay,
also
thank you.
my.
Yeah, so it just feels like the candidate is just tagging sentence on the end. So I think the candidate spoke on topic for about a minute 20, which is, what we usually get from the B2s in terms of fluency and coherence. And then, just starts tagging bits on the end, which are like partially connected to the main topic, but those tags at the end don't really feel like part of the same story. All right, so you've been talking about your cousin who's a successful person. Let's talk a little more about success now. How do people usually measure success in your country?
Uh, in my country, it's totally depends on you how much money you earn or how much
Yeah, in my country, a lot of it is the same, unfortunately. I think it's the same in many, many countries all over the world.
you can invest anywhere. For example, one of my friend who is like 23 years old,
Yeah, candidates using his friend as an example, which is okay. I always think, keep personal examples, keep them limited. Don't use too many personal examples in part three. We want to show that we can speak about things globally, but one or two instances, absolutely fine.
and he earned lots of money. And all people are told, tell him you are very successful and you doing lots of good work. In my personal opinion, I feel if you earn money and you are doing so many things like you help poor people and you try to
And I really like this candidate's answer here. He's developing and he's speaking now in general.
give some money on the charity, which is very good. And it's in my personal opinion, it's
Repeating that in my personal opinion, though, we've had that like 4 or 5 times now, I think.
kind of uh, good thing.
And do you think success is more about hard work or luck?
I think it's a hard work. It totally depends on hard work because
Totally depends on. We've had that a couple of times.
when you are doing lots of hard work, maintain a routine, and if you follow your dream,
And just notice we don't really get much pausing there where the commas are. Just notice this. Hard work or luck?
I think it's a hard work. It totally depends on hard work because when
Totally depends on hard work because
you are doing lots of hard work, maintain a routine,
when you're doing lots of hard work maintaining routine, there should be a pause there. When you're doing lots of hard work, like maintaining a routine, so we don't get enough pauses. Again, it's not that the candidate necessarily is speaking quickly. I think that the candidate's speed of speech is a little bit fast, but the problem is he doesn't feel comfortable, I guess, pausing in the right place. And there are many people who feel like, oh, in an English test or in a language test, I shouldn't pause. And that's absolute nonsense. Pausing is great. Pausing can add so much to our speech.
and if you follow your dream, and you also
Intonation feels a little bit flat, a little bit robotic, like this, just a little bit now.
consistency, follow a consistency because if we are taking a example, Cristiano Ronaldo, who is a very hard worker, and he on well, a few days ago,
Again, you hear those disfluencies, right? And it does make it chaotic. It does put a strain on the listener when you have some of these towns, some of these sounds. That does put a strain on the listener, and I understand it's just for a lot of people it's a nervous thing, but objectively, I can say that type of disfluency puts a strain on the listener and takes away from the message.
I watch a podcast where he say, if you want to be successful, then you need to be follow a routine, and you must be a consistent
Grammar gets no, you must be follow a routine, and then that B really is distracting and pulls away from the message. So,
man. So that's why I think consistency is very important, and otherwise it's not luck.
okay, great use of otherwise there. It's a really good discourse marker. There are some people, maybe otherwise is actually incorrect. Yeah, otherwise, it's not luck. Maybe therefore, it's not luck. People who would say that, some people are just born lucky and that's why they're successful. For example, if you're born into a billionaire's family, do you think it's true that if a person is born rich, they have more opportunities in life?
I think yes, they
I think yes is a bit strange. I think so is more common.
have lots of opportunity, but in my viewpoint is quite different. Like if you are born
in my viewpoint is quite different. You can say my viewpoint is quite different, or in my opinion, it is quite different. But in my viewpoint is quite different is odd.
Very very rich family, our wealthy family, if I say, so then it would be beneficial for you. But you need to
Beneficial, great.
know how you can organize everything and how you invest the money. If you are just investing in uh, countless way, like you spend gambling and you do several kind of
Spend gambling is a strange collocation. Spend money gambling, fine.
bad thing, which is very bad for your upcoming years. So that's why I think it's totally depends on you how you can.
You get that it totally depends on you. So the candidate does have this tendency, with nice bits of language, like in my personal opinion or in my personal belief or something like this. And then it totally depends on. That stuff is repeated a little bit too much.
Spend and how you can manage your money. It's not depends on you. You born
Yeah, it is not depends on poor grammatical control.
in a wealthy family and you suffer. You just enjoy your money. You need to know.
And you can kind of see when the candidate breathes, like, uh, and you can see that the breathing doesn't feel very natural. Whenever I can really notice a candidate breathing, I think that they have problems with pronunciation and problems, maintaining a flow of speech.
How to save your money.
Some people say it's unfair that people who are born into a rich family have more opportunities. Do you agree that it's unfair?
Born in a rich family, it's not
Being born.
a crime, because it's
I like that though. It's not a crime. Cool.
just a God decided. If I personally feel it, and if
And there's always a question, is it okay to make religious claims in the IELTS speaking test? I always think it's better to avoid things like politics and religious things. But I think in this case, the candidate has this belief that God decides that. That's okay here.
you are if you know how to become a successful, then you can try, because uh, if you are trying harder, then you can get your
Trying harder, we get that comparative form. So while there is, a lot that goes wrong about the candidate's basic grammar with like constructing basic clauses, he does have some knowledge of, other grammar points like comparatives, like infinitives.
place in the future. So that's why I don't think it's the not basically false thing.
And what can governments do to try to make society a fairer place?
uh, could you repeat the question again, please?
It's okay if you don't understand the question or if you mishear a question. The candidate almost sounds apologetic, like, "Oh, could you please repeat the question?" It's fine. This happens quite a lot. It's absolutely fine to ask the examiner here. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat that? What can governments do to try to make society a more fair place?
Government play a vital role in this
Government should be governments or the government, and plays a vital, not vital.
section, because uh, government, if trying to organize
And just notice here, if we just write down what the candidate says or repeat it, just and you kind of see the difficulty in understanding some of the grammar. Let's go through it.
this section, because uh, government, if
Government if
trying to
try to
organize, like if they are
like if they
make some policy.
make some policy. Government if they try to organize like kind of make some policy. That doesn't that's really really tricky to understand.
For example, if they are strict about something, like in my country there is some discrimination with job circulation, like they
There's some discrimination in job circulation. Don't quite understand that. Now, I understand, the Bangladeshi student protests against, I think, nepotism, against like government officials carefully choosing which people, like my friends, my family members, get those jobs and other people don't get those jobs. So I have some familiarity with this news story. But if I didn't know the news story and I was just relying on the candidate's answer, I think I would find it tough to follow.
They provide lots of opportunities, some wealthy people.
They provide some opportunities, wealthy people provide it to some wealthy people, maybe.
Which is very bad. And I personally disagree with I totally avoid this thing, because if
In my personal opinion, I disagree with. I totally. Let's just listen to the words that the candidate uses.
job circulation, like they provide lots of opportunities, some wealthy people, which is very bad. And I personally disagree with
disagree with the my.
I totally avoid this thing.
Totally avoid this theme,
Because if you are eligible.
So again, it's different. If you just look at the basic words and you put them together, they don't always form anything meaningful here in part 3.
Or if you are good, then you should get the job.
And again, part 3 is the big challenge, because it's like, can you use your brain to do two things? Can you use your brain to produce ideas about unfamiliar topics? And then once you do that, can you at the same time use your brain to produce language to express those complex ideas? And that's what makes someone a C1, is that ability to produce language spontaneously on unprepared topics, on spontaneous, less familiar topics.
So our government should try to strict their policy and try to organize their everything. Otherwise,
Government should try to organize everything. It's not real topic development, is it?
it's really tough for some people who is come from very poor family.
It's tough for some people who come from
And they are trying harder, and they don't get their desired job.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test. Okay, so some of the answers there in part 3, some of them were like the first, maybe the first or the second answer was on topic and developed and easy to follow, but then other questions were a bit more troublesome, shall we say. But let's have a look at the band descriptors and we'll see what marks we're going to give. So usually when I do this, I think of like the lowest possible mark that I would give, and then I work my way up. So I have an idea in my mind about what I want to give the candidate. Probably it's a 6, which means I want to take a look at the 5, the 6, and the 7. So let's have a look at the 6 for fluency and coherence. This is the 5. So usually able to keep going. Yes, candidate has no problem keeping going, but relies on repetition. We do get repetition. Self-correction, we do get self-correction, and slow speech. No slow speech there. Hesitations are often associated with mid-sentence searches. Yeah, but not for fairly simple lexes. I think the candidate, maybe not quite mid-sentence, sometimes mid-sentence, but I think the hesitations are associated with ideas rather than language. So I think he's better than that 5. Overuse of discourse markers, sure, we get that's why. Connectives and other cohesive features, overuse of things like in my personal opinion, or it totally depends on, yeah. Complex speech causes disfluency. That's true. Simpler language may be produced fluently. Yes. So this, 5 is a fairly accurate description of the candidate's fluency and coherence. But let's take a look at the 6, because it feels like a 6. Able to keep going. Yes. Demonstrates a willingness to produce long turns. Yes. Candidate does show that, hey, I'm ready to speak and speak and speak. Sure. Coherence may be lost at times. At times, yeah, as a result of hesitation, repetition, or self-correction. That, to me, sounds better. Coherence is lost at times as a result of hesitation. Not that he's hesitating to find words, it's that there's hesitation there for ideas, and then I lose the idea a little bit. Range of spoken discourse markers. We do have a range of spoken discourse markers and connectives. Not always appropriate. I guess I feel like 6 is fair. I do think the candidate does readily have that language available and is able to maintain a reasonably good flow of speech. And so for that reason, I'm awarding 6 for fluency and coherence. Moving on to the next thing, which is lexical resource. Now, I think the candidate's lexical resource maybe was a little bit higher than 6, so I'm going to check 6. I'm going to have a look at 7 as well. Resource sufficient to discuss topics at length, certainly in part 1 and an attempt in part 3. Don't think that vocab was the thing that was holding him back in part 3. Vocabulary use may be inappropriate, generally able to paraphrase successfully. Have a look at the 7. Resource flexibly used to discuss a variety of topics. And the reason I was thinking maybe the vocab is higher is some ability to use less common and idiomatic items. I definitely think that some of the candidates' language, like it's tough, instead of it's hard or it's difficult, it's tough. It's quite a sophisticated subject. I think he used that word sophisticated, which again shows some ability to use that less common. Certainly, inappropriacies occur, and I'm a little bit worried about collocation, like provide somebody with something or provide something to somebody or participate in something. I do think the candidate misses quite a few collocating prepositions, but in terms of collocating verbs, maybe he's okay. And so I'm gonna go slightly higher with this vocab and go with a 7 for the vocab. Grammar is the big one, and immediately I can forget about the 6, where I don't think we're there. I want to check the 5 and the 4. Basic sentence forms are fairly well controlled for accuracy. So we do get correct word order, right? That's one thing we get, correct word order. And there are some bits of basic grammar that are controlled. But can I say that basic sentence forms are fairly well controlled? Maybe. Complex structures are attempted, certainly, but these are limited in range, nearly always contain errors, and may lead to need for reformulation. That is true, but the question is about these basic forms, and I want to look at the 4. Can produce basic sentence forms, and some short utterances are error-free. But then we get subordinate clauses are rare. That is not true for this candidate. Turns are short. That is not true for this candidate. Structures are repetitive. Structures, not vocab. That isn't really true. Errors are frequent is true. So I it's tricky. It's tricky. I don't know, because on the one hand, basic sentence forms are fairly well controlled for accuracy. I don't think I can say that. And of course, the way that IELTS is marked, you need to meet all of the positive features of a particular band descriptor to get it. And so I don't feel comfortable listening to this test and saying, yes, this candidate controls basic sentence forms fairly well for accuracy. I think that would be a very big stretch, and so I'm going to even drop to 4 for the grammar. Yeah, it's an issue. And then we get to pronunciation. And for me, the candidate's pronunciation is typical 6, right? We'll go through it, a range of phonological features. Yes. Control is variable. Yes, we have some issues with the j and the s, and even the e. We're like vital. Chunking is generally appropriate. Okay, at times we have good chunking. Rhythm may be affected by a lack of stress timing. Yeah, some effective use of intonation, but it's not sustained. Again, we have some intonation, but it's just not, it doesn't stretch over long sentences, long utterances. Individual words may be mispronounced, vital, and so on, but this causes only occasional lack of clarity. It's true. The candidate can generally be understood throughout without much effort. Yes. So for me, a 6 for that 1-2. So looking at the scores, originally I thought my original scores were, I think, 6 for fluency and coherence, 7 for lexical resource, and I think my original score was 5 for grammar and then 6 for pronunciation, and that would put the candidate at band 6. But I've since changed my mind about the grammar, and I'm going to drop it to 4 for grammar and 6 for pronunciation. And this means that the overall score has just dropped slightly to 5.5. My original idea was probably, and the candidate feels like a 6, the way that the candidate, performs, and like the task achievement nature of the test, or the task achievement performance, feels 6-ish. But because of that grammar, I've just dropped it a little bit. And so for me, overall 5.5. That's still the lower end of B2 on the IELTS scale. On the Glynn scale, 5.5 is more B1-ish. And I do think, even though the candidate does have good confidence, good communication skills, and decent vocab, I do feel like the candidate is, borderline B1, B2. And I think 5.5 probably isn't unfair. I wouldn't be surprised if the candidate got 6.0 in the real test, even for this performance. I definitely think there are some examiners that would award 5 for grammatical range and accuracy, that some examiners really don't like having 7 for one criterion and then 4 for another one. This is something that we call a jagged profile. Examiners are encouraged to avoid jagged profiles, but sometimes they happen. Yeah, so overall, for me, 5.5. The areas of improvement, it's pretty obvious, I think, for anyone listening. The areas of improvement are grammar. You need at least to get present simple, present continuous, past simple down. Those things are real pillars in terms of your accuracy. And also in terms of fluency and coherence, I would say just try to relax a little bit more. Don't rush into your answers as soon as a question is answered. You don't need to jump in. If the question is, "What did you do yesterday?" Oh yeah, yesterday. Yeah, it's yesterday. Yesterday I did. You could. What did you do yesterday? Um, I worked yesterday. That would be fine. And controlling, having a bit more, yeah, I would say control of your speech is the right word here, because at times, while I like your speech, I like your communication skills, at times it does feel like chaos. It feels like you're fighting with your brain sometimes to come up and produce some of this language. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Overall, 5.5, but I wouldn't be surprised if an examiner awarded a 6. I definitely think the candidate has the potential to get maybe 6.5. I don't see anything higher. If he can learn some basic grammar, not complex grammar, just learn some basic grammar and get that grammar to a 6, then, maybe we could find an examiner that might give a 7 for pronunciation or might give a 7 for fluency and coherence, and we can use that 7 in lexical resource to maybe push to a 6.5. I would be surprised if the candidate got 6.5, but 6.0 is certainly a realistic score. Yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments section. Do you agree with my marking? Do you think I'm too harsh? Do you think I'm too kind with my marking? And as always, if you'd like to have your own free practice IELTS speaking test with feedback, or if you'd like me to check your IELTS writing tasks, then join one of my groups. I'm on Facebook and Telegram. Links to both groups are given in the description below. Candidates are always selected at random for these free tests, but if you want to avoid the random process, if you want to pay for a speaking test or a writing check, check out my website, expertexaminer.com, where I have a full price list available. More videos from me coming soon, but for now, bye bye.